On a warm evening in Barbados, a small cricket stadium buzzed with energy. Fans filled the stands, music blasted through loudspeakers, and the crowd prepared for another fast-paced showdown in the Bim10 T10 Cricket League, one of the Caribbean's newest short-format tournaments. 10 overs per side, fast scoring, non-stop entertainment. But that night, something strange happened. A player who had built a reputation as a dependable performer suddenly looked different. Balls were bowled where they shouldn't have been. Fielding decisions confused commentators. Moments that should have been routine suddenly turned chaotic. At first, it looked like nothing more than a bad day. Athletes make mistakes. Fans complain. The match ends. But somewhere else, far away from the noise of the stadium, investigators were already watching. Inside the headquarters of the International Cricket Council, analysts responsible for protecting the integrity of the sport had begun examining suspicious activity tied to the tournament. Their systems monitor betting markets across the world, and something unusual had triggered alarms. Betting patterns tied to certain Bim10 matches looked unnatural. Large wagers appeared moments before key moments in the game. Lines moved in strange directions, and some gamblers seemed to know exactly when something unusual would happen on the field. That's when the investigation began. Soon, attention turned toward a professional cricketer with international experience, a player who had represented the West Indies, a man named Javon Searles. At first, his name appeared only in the background of the investigation, but as investigators dug deeper, new connections began to surface. A team official, a franchise owner, private conversations, unreported approaches, and allegations that someone inside the league may have attempted to manipulate matches. If the accusations were true, this wasn't just a minor rules violation. It was something much bigger, because match fixing doesn't just damage a game. It destroys trust. And once fans begin to believe the result of a match can be bought, the entire sport is at risk. Within weeks, the investigation escalated. And then the announcement came. 3 individuals connected to the Bim10 League had been provisionally suspended from all cricket activities worldwide, including the international cricketer at the center of the growing storm. But the biggest question was only beginning to emerge. Was this a simple case of corruption in a small tournament, or the beginning of something far more dangerous for the future of cricket? To understand the scandal, you first have to understand the league. The Bim10 T10 Cricket League was designed to capture a new generation of cricket fans. Shorter matches, more entertainment, more aggressive batting. With only 10 overs per side, games could finish in just a couple of hours. And for organizers, that meant something very important. More games, more broadcast opportunities, more betting markets. Short-format cricket has exploded in popularity over the last decade. Leagues around the world began experimenting with new formats designed to keep audiences glued to the screen. But these fast tournaments also created a new vulnerability. Smaller leagues often have fewer resources to monitor corruption. And wherever large sums of betting money exist, there will always be people willing to manipulate the outcome. Inside the Bim10 tournament, 6 teams competed for dominance: Voyagers, Guardians, Titans, Settlers, Warriors, Pelicans. For players, it was an opportunity. Some were young cricketers hoping to prove themselves. Others were experienced professionals looking for additional income during the off-season. Among them was Javon Searles, a fast-bowling all-rounder who had previously played at the international level. But investigators would later allege that something else was happening behind the scenes. According to corruption charges announced by the International Cricket Council, several individuals connected to the league had allegedly violated anti-corruption rules. One of them was a franchise owner. Another was a team official. And the allegations included some of the most serious violations in professional cricket: attempting to influence the outcome or progress of matches, encouraging players to participate in corrupt activity, failing to report suspicious approaches, and potentially obstructing an anti-corruption investigation. For cricket authorities, these allegations were deeply concerning Because corruption scandals have haunted the sport before. From the infamous 2010 Pakistan spot-fixing scandal to other cases involving international players, cricket has repeatedly struggled with the influence of illegal betting markets. And now, investigators feared that a smaller tournament might have become a new target. If true, the consequences could be severe, not only for the individuals involved, but for the credibility of the entire competition. Inside the anti-corruption unit of the International Cricket Council, investigations rarely begin with dramatic arrests. They start quietly, with data. Analysts monitor global betting markets in real time. Millions of wagers placed across different countries can reveal patterns invisible to fans watching the match. Sudden betting spikes, unusual odds movements, large wagers appearing seconds before a specific play. When those patterns appear, investigators begin comparing them with what happened on the field. In the case of the Bim10 T10 Cricket League, those patterns raised serious concerns. Certain matches displayed betting behavior that looked suspicious. And once investigators began reviewing communications and relationships between people involved in the league, the picture began to change. Authorities eventually announced that 3 individuals connected to the tournament had been charged under anti-corruption rules. Those individuals included Javon Searles, a team official named Trayvon Griffith, and a franchise owner named Chitranjan Rathod. The charges suggested that these individuals may have been involved in attempts to manipulate aspects of matches within the league. In professional cricket, even the attempt to influence a match is considered a serious violation. Players and officials are required to report any corrupt approaches immediately. Failing to report such contact can itself lead to suspension. Once the charges were announced, the International Cricket Council took swift action. All 3 individuals were provisionally suspended from cricket worldwide while the investigation continued. That meant they could not play, coach, or participate in any cricket activities during the process. But investigators still had a long road ahead, because corruption cases are notoriously complex. Proving that a match was intentionally manipulated requires detailed evidence, communication records, financial trails, witness testimony, and sometimes cooperation from those involved. Until the investigation is complete, the accused individuals have the right to respond to the charges. But one thing had already become clear. The scandal surrounding the Bim10 League had grown far beyond a simple sporting controversy. It had become a test of cricket's ability to protect itself from corruption. When corruption enters a sport, the damage goes far beyond a single match. Fans begin to question every decision, every missed catch, every unexpected collapse. Was it simply a mistake or something planned? For the International Cricket Council, protecting the integrity of cricket is considered one of the most important responsibilities in the game. That's why the anti-corruption unit operates across all international competitions. Players receive strict education about gambling rules. Officials are trained to recognize suspicious approaches. And every professional cricketer is required to report any attempt to manipulate a match. Failure to report such an approach can itself lead to suspension. In the case of Javon Searles, the allegations represent a serious threat to a career that once included representing the West Indies on the international stage. For fans in the Caribbean, the accusations are particularly painful. Cricket is more than a sport in the region. It's a symbol of national pride. And when corruption enters the game, it risks damaging that legacy. Meanwhile, tournaments like the Bim10 T10 Cricket League now face intense scrutiny. Smaller competitions often rely heavily on sponsorships and broadcast deals. But a corruption scandal can quickly scare away investors and fans. Once trust disappears, rebuilding credibility becomes extremely difficult. For the ICC, the message is clear. Any sign of corruption must be investigated aggressively, because if match fixing spreads unchecked, the sport itself could suffer long-term damage. As the investigation continues, several key questions remain unanswered. Were these actions the work of a few individuals, or part of a larger corruption network targeting smaller cricket leagues. Short format tournaments have become extremely popular around the world. But their rapid growth has also created opportunities for illegal betting syndicates. These groups often search for competitions where oversight may be weaker, and when players or officials face financial pressure, they may become targets. That's why the investigation by the International Cricket Council is being closely watched across the cricket world. If investigators uncover a wider network, the case could have consequences far beyond the Bim10 T10 Cricket League. For now, Javon Searles and the other accused individuals remain provisionally suspended. They have the opportunity to respond to the charges, and the final outcome will depend on the evidence presented during the disciplinary process. But the story serves as a reminder of how fragile sporting integrity can be. Because every time corruption touches a game, the real victims are the fans, the ones who believe every match is real, every result is earned, and every victory is honest. And that belief is exactly what investigators are trying to protect.